Well, let's dive into it. Let's talk about some winners and losers, and we can begin with the Jaguars because I think they made the most noise, and you have them as a winner, Wilson.
Yeah, specifically Trevor Lawrence, because they franchised Cam Robinson, which you're like, yeah, okay, 16.6 million and change, something like that. Then they signed Brandon Scherff. That feels really good if you're Trevor Lawrence, who I think was threw 17 interceptions last year, which I think was tied for the season high with some guy named Matthew Stafford. Then they signed Christian Kirk to a 3-year, $85 billion deal. I think it ended up being about $72 million officially, but that's a lot of money for a number two who is now presumably number one. They have Laviska Shenault. They do have some other pieces there. They need a tight end, as Pete Prisco would not quit tweeting about over the course of Monday. I mean, he's like, they should sign Tyler Conklin. Do it now. Do it now. So
that's what they need is Tyler Conklin.
But I do love the and they got another who's the other offensive lineman, because the list I'm looking at isn't updated. They got another offensive lineman too, I think, right? In addition to Brandon Scherff, or was it just Brandon Scherff? I know they signed a couple of defensive guys, which is also great. But in terms of helping that offense, I think I love the idea of signing Brandon Scherff, even if that's what all they end up doing. I'm trying to find my updated list. That's if you want to make $1 million, do an updated as it happens in real time.
I don't think they signed another lineman.
Okay, good.
So they tagged Robinson and they signed Scherff, which gives them, a pretty, robust offensive line to work with in the first. Like their whole, and I saw some criticism about it too, where it's like, they let Norwell and then another tackle go. Or no, they let Norwell and Joe Schubert, the linebacker, go, and then they go out and like sign a guard and another linebacker. It's like, what are we really doing? The one that gives me the most pause, and I think gives everybody the most pause, it certainly raised the biggest eyebrows, was the Christian Kirk contract.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to give someone who's never had a 1,000-yard season. I think it was 4 years, $72 million, and that can go up to $84 million a year. So we're talking about $21 million per year if Christian Kirk maxes that out, which would be the third highest, making the third highest paid receiver. If you're Devontae Adams, the Packers hate the Jaguars and Christian Kirk right now because Devontae Adams is definitely going to throw that contract down and be like, all right, well, if this guy's getting 21 mil, you guys might have to give me a blank check.
Hey, who was the wide receiver we were talking about last week that was going to be looking to make close to 20 million? It was someone that was probably, I can't remember. We've talked about so many people, but if he had gotten this Christian Kirk deal, we'd have been like, oh my God, this is insanely overpaying this person. So they have Marvin Jones, who's probably on the downside of his career, although a really solid player. Laviska Shenault, who I mentioned, I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, so the free agent DJ Shark, who was sort of never really materialized. Devon Austin, who they traded for. Laquan Treadwell, who didn't work out in Minnesota before he came over and didn't really add much. So they still, they need help at wide receiver, but I think something that's important to keep in mind as we go through this, and we sort of know it, but you can get caught up in the moment, and I get it. The Honest NFL on Twitter, he's a former scout. He doesn't say who he is, but he tweets out some stuff that's interesting from time to time, and he tweeted this out right as the Christian Kirk news was breaking, and after the Jaguars, went on a drunken spending spree this afternoon. Draft and develop your premium positions. Otherwise, you'll find yourself overpaying in free agency to compensate. So I think it's important. Like you draft the offensive linemen, you draft the wide receivers, you draft the D-backs, and obviously quarterback. That's just a crapshoot. But the offensive linemen, wide receivers, and defensive backs feels like even edge rushers. If you can draft those guys and develop them and have them for 3 or 4 years, you can save yourself the $22 million and change for Christian Kirk's of the world. If it works out, great. But history suggests that if he was a number 2 in Arizona, is he suddenly going to become a number 1 on a much worse team?
Well, so here's the thing. I agree with that point completely. Free agency should supplement your roster building. Like you should be using free agency to complement the roster that you've developed through drafting and through trades and all of that. Free agency should not be a way to fix your roster, because if you go into free agency needing to fix your roster, then you're going to end up with a situation where you're overpaying for these guys. And Christian Kirk, to be clear, is not getting $21 million per year. He's actually getting $18 million per year. Not that that's that much better. He can make
repeat that just so you hear it coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, he's getting $18 million a year. But the logic here is that the Jaguars are trying to make it look like they're doing the best for Trevor Lawrence, and I think they are. Christian Kirk slots in now at below Chris Godwin. Tyreek Hill will leapfrog him when he gets his new deal. But I mean, he's making as much as Kenny. He's making basically the same as Kenny Golladay. Which
where does he rank among the wide receivers now?
I think he's third behind.
No. He's third if it's at 21.
Yeah, if it's 84. Yeah.
And it's 18. What is it?
If he maxes out his deal.
Yeah. But now this is what I would argue is if he ends up making the $84 million at $21 million per, then he'll probably end up being worth the $21 million because he will have hit these incentives that are so large and his team will have produced so well that they that they would actually like put together he'll put together the numbers that will make it worth.
No one disagrees with that. I mean, if you earned your 21 million, yeah, great, you earned it. But I think that's the question. What have we seen in the past?
Well, and that's the other exactly. And I think that is the question. Like, I would love to know if Jacksonville offered DJ Chark any of this money. If they said, here's a 4-year, 54 or whatever it is, here's $18 million per year. Do you want it? Because if push comes to shove and my options are Christian Kirk or DJ Chark, I'm probably taking DJ Chark, right?
At the same price, I feel like it. Yeah.
So
DJ Chark has been explosive on terrible football teams. Christian Kirk has been very good on above average football teams.
Right, when he's not the focal point of the opposing defense. So
like he's played with Larry Fitzgerald and Dre Hopkins. I mean, right.
So what's going to exactly? So yeah, this was just an interesting sign, and maybe DJ Chark doesn't want to be in Jacksonville. So
I can see that.
And
to be clear, I don't hate it. It just seems like it's not the wisest use of a lot of money. It's not like they didn't have the money to spend, and I understand what they're trying to do.
They are trying to win more. They're trying to actually be competitive and win football games and give Trevor Lawrence a chance in 2022. And in order to do that, because they probably can't pull it off in the draft, they're trying to pay for it and then to also add a pass rusher potentially at number 1. I actually think Aiden Hutchinson is a big winner now because there's a good chance that he goes number 1 overall with that Brandon Scherff signing. It seems to be the sort of the consensus that is developing with the, around the NFL. By the way, the other thing on Christian Kirk is 4 years in Arizona. He's only 25 years old, doesn't turn 26 until November. So you're buying early on him at least. But I mean, his best season was last year when he had 77 catches for 982 yards. Including a 75% catch percentage, which is I guess okay, I mean not like elite, and that you got to factor in too. That is with Kirk playing after DeAndre Hopkins went down for a large portion of the season. So like Kirk should have, in theory, been putting up massive numbers, number 1 numbers. I guess Kyler Murray was out too, but really, he only had 1 game over 100 yards. So you
know what that's called? That's called Jacksonville.
It's called overpaying.
And Jacksonville's done this a lot over the last decade. And so I guess, I mean, if you let's say you get Aiden Hutchinson and another offensive lineman at the top of the second round, and you added Christian Kirk and you added Brandon Scherff and you bring back Cam Robinson, I mean, you can talk yourself into, okay, the Jaguars are putting enough around Trevor Lawrence where with Doug Peterson's coaching, he'll be able to take a step forward in year 2. And I think that's a good thing. But we're also kind of expecting like Brandon Scherff playing 16 games or 17 games would be kind of a surprise given his injury history. And Christian Kirk having a monster, true alpha wide receiver season, given his production, would be extremely surprising. So you're sort of just buying the top of a bad market. And as we point out, like it never works out.
Was this Prisco's number 1 wide receiver? Do we know? I haven't followed the free agency openings that closely. Either way, let me ask you this. I did say he had him 12.
It was not Prisco's number 1 wide receiver. His number 1 was Allen Robinson.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Oh, interesting. Okay, let me ask you this. So as I look at the ranking, so it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Christian Kirk ranks 9th average annual value at $18 million a year. And I'll ask you 3 names in the area, in the range of what Christian Kirk's now making. Some of these guys may get new deals. One definitely will. And you tell me, who would you rather have?
Yeah, okay. And I was just going to say, like, I think when you start to read off these names too, that Christian Kirk at $21 million per year is kind of outrageous. Christian Kirk at $18 million a year is kind of like sort of seems to fit more acceptably with where.
All right, let's go. Let's do it. Chris Godwin.
I'm taking I mean, I'm taking Christian Kirk to start the season, but yes, Godwin's a much better receiver.
The moment he's healthy, fair enough. Kenny Golladay, who shot himself in both feet in that first year in New York.
I mean, I think I'm probably taking Christian Kirk over. I really like Kenny Golladay.
I did. I think.
Yeah, but man, that was his performance last year in New York, just very
breach.
Golladay.
Okay, I get it. I'm not going to mention Tyreek because he's about to get paid a lot more.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson, who we just mentioned.
So he's coming off that franchise tag.
Real quick with Golladay. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has multiple 1,000-yard seasons, and
then bad teams too.
But he's playing with the Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, he's not playing with the Hall of Fame quarterback in last season, and he still put up over 500 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
Please do not sell last year's Kenny Golladay performance.
I think you're better selling.
I'm not selling it. I'm just saying that I'm taking him. Fine.
I get it.
Fine, Brinson. Did you talk me into Christian Kirk? Is that what you wanted to do here?
I think it's probably a wash. I think that's like a fair.
I'll take a wash. I think it is. I agree.
It's a slam dunk Kenny Golladay if he sat out last year.
That's right. Who else is on that?
Allen Robinson. What do we decide?
I think Allen Robinson will slot right into that.
I might take Christian Kirk. He feels more explosive to me.
I think he's getting $20 million a year.
Yeah,
he can get $20 million a year. I'm fine paying Allen Robinson because he's still kind of youngish and like just has been in bad situations.
Well, who would you rather have?
I would rather have
Allen Robinson.
Okay, fair enough. That's fine. And one last name, Tyler Lockett.
Obviously, Tyler Lockett.
He's making 17.25.
Yeah, Mike Evans is making 16.5. Like I would much rather have Mike Evans and Tyler.
But
Lockett.
Evans' contract came before Tyler Lockett's, I believe. Tyler just got paid relatively recently. My
point
is that
Brandon Cooks or Christian Kirk.
Cooks is actually more productive. He makes a lot more though, right?
No, Cooks is 16.25.
Oh, he's below. Okay, when I resorted it, yeah, I'm taking Cooks, even though he seems like a guy that gets traded every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is really not like so much about. I mean, I think the spot that Christian Kirk landed in when we first saw this is the problem. These deals get reported. It's like Christian Kirk signs a deal that could pay him up to $21 million or $84 million. And like, I did the math on my phone like several times. Like, are we 21 million? And then it comes out at 72 with $12 million in incentives. Now, maybe those incentives are easy to hit where it's $1 million for 1,000 yards, another $1 million for 1,500 yards. We don't know. We'll have to see. It could be, make a Pro Bowl, $1.5 million bonus or something, we have to see what those incentives are. If they're easy to hit, then I don't like the contract quite as much. But if him getting 21 million for each year means that he has to be super productive, then I don't mind it because I just think if you're like, that's just the cost of buying Christian Kirk on the market.
Brinson, it is Pi Day. It is March 14th, and I have to think all our math aficionados out there are disappointed that you have to use your phone calculator to do 84 divided by 4.
Well, that was the concern. I was like, in my head, I was like, that's 21 million. That can't be right. And so I was like, I have to check this out because I'm pretty sure that makes him the third highest paid wide receiver. Instead, yeah, like we'll see how this pans out. If he and Trevor Lawrence get on the same page, and I'm sure we'll hear glowing reports all offseason, then it could be a very, very productive deal. It's still asking a lot.
It does reinforce the fact that they have had trouble drafting and grooming wide receivers.
Oh yeah,
and I don't hate the Christian Kirk signing. I like him as a player. It just seems like a lot that they have the money to spend, and he comes up 75% of what they were hoping for. That's fine. They're a better football team. That's fine.
If Trevor Lawrence bounces back under Doug Peterson, then I think Christian Kirk will have some pretty good stats. Another winner. I mentioned that Aiden Hutchinson was a winner as well because I think he's now minus 400 at Caesars to go number 1 overall. I think there's you want to go number 1 overall, right? Even if it means you're going to Jacksonville, I think you want to go first overall.
Yes.
Yeah. Eli Manning did not want to go first overall.
Who did?
Eli Manning did not want to go first overall.
That's true. And now Aiden Hutchinson likely paired across from Josh Allen. I think that gives it, if they end up going this route, that gives him a really productive pass rush duo.
Caleb Chason, who they drafted a year after him. Josh Allen. Caleb Chason, who they also drafted in the first round after Josh Allen, is what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. I was for a second there, I was like, wait, didn't they trade him? But they traded CJ Henderson. That's what it was.
Yeah. I was wondering I thought you were having a stroke.
I was sort of having a stroke. Sort of having a brain stroke. Yeah. I mean, they got pass rushers to send after quarterbacks. I mean, it's a good thing.